What's going on, guys? Welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be setting up a camping-based store from scratch using Shopify. Now, even if camping isn't exactly your thing, no worries. You can still follow along and apply these same steps to build any kind of store you're into.
If you don't have Shopify yet, I've included a link in the description. You can get yourself a 3-day free trial, and after that, it's just $1 a month for your first 6 months.
All right, so with that being said, let's dig in. So once you guys log into your Shopify account, you're gonna find this dashboard and the setup guide. Now, I want you guys to ignore this because we're gonna be going through this guide ourselves, just in a different way. So rest assured that you're gonna have all of this knowledge and then some by the end of the video. So let me give you a little roadmap of what we're going to do. So first, I'm going to show you guys how to add products and then how to organize those products into categories or collections in this case. And then we're going to talk about how to set up your menus. And after that, we'll get into actually designing our store. So we'll do the heavy lifting first, and then we'll get into the fun part later on. Now, what I want you to do is to click on products on the left-hand side. And then over here, just click on add product. So the first thing we have to input here is our title, which is easy enough. Down in the description, you can write your own description, or if you need a little bit of help, click on this icon right here where it says generate text and input some keywords. Now, in this case, I'll put in my title and I can change the tone as well. So from any of these 6 options, or I can have a custom one. Once you've settled on that, you can hit generate. If you're happy with what it makes, you can keep it. Otherwise, generate again. In this case, I will keep it. For the media, this is where your photos go. Oh, my Canadian accent is coming out. My photos go. So any pictures you have of your item, you place in the media. Now, this will come in handy when we talk about variants in a moment. For the pricing, again, this is relatively self-explanatory. You put in the price of your item. For the compare price, you're not always going to be filling this out, but what this is essentially is if you have a discounted item, for example, if I wanted to price this at $120 on the website, it would say that it has been discounted. Okay, so it would just list as a deal. Now, where we have track quantity, input your stock. And I want to talk about continue selling when out of stock because this is important to know. So basically, when you guys go to a store and you buy something and then it says that they can't fulfill your order, that's because they have this box checked off. So they keep selling when they're out of stock. Now, this can cause problems because if they can't fulfill your order, then you're not likely to come back to that store, especially if it's a store you've never been on or a website you've never been on. So that can ruin your credibility and how trustworthy you are. And reliable, whatever other synonym you want to use for that. So basically, if you can fulfill quickly, then check it off. If you know you can't and you're still starting off, then just leave it unchecked. And it's better to lose sales than to lose credibility. That's something that I say. Now, as for the variants, this is what I love. So basically, you're going to probably have more meta fields, the more, let's say, I don't know if I'd say abstract, but for example, if you have clothes, then you'd have a few more options that it would fill out here. So essentially, let me explain what this is. Now, what the Shopify AI does is it looks at your photo, it looks at your description and your title, and determines a few variants for your item. Now, it only determined 2. So what we can do here is go to variants and add the 2 that it determined on its own. If it was wrong, you can click on this and add more. Otherwise, if you want to add a different option, a different variant that it didn't come up with, then you would just click on add another option and then input it right here. For example, if this tent was waterproof, we'd put material, and then under here, it would also determine what material it is. So it doesn't automatically fill every variant out, but you can also input your own. So it determined it as rubber, but for example, if you wanted to write waterproof, or I guess that wouldn't be a material, but a quality, waterproof, then you put it in right here, you click on done, and you can also add rubber. So these are the kind of things that you can do with your variants. It just gives your customers a little more information. And so basically that's really all that you need to know when it comes to adding a product. I just want to mention one more thing. This is kind of like an Easter egg, or not an Easter egg, but just something you should jot down in your brain for later, because when I talk about collections, this is going to be important to know. So basically, we have two things called collections and tags. Now, collections are where you organize your items, all right? So essentially, once you make your collection, you can come back here and you can add your collections via this page. So you see how it says home page. So say we had a tent category or collection. So we just put our tent in that collection and that's it. As for the tags, it's a little more complicated because you have to have variables. It's similar to coding. So essentially you have this variable is equal to another. Now, why this is a little unnecessary is because say I have this title as tents, all right? And I establish my variable as tents. Then I would just come here and add this item to that collection based on the fact that it's under that tag. You see kind of how unnecessary that is? So what I prefer to do is to make my collection and come here whenever I'm adding an item, click on it, check off the box that it's for, and then it's going to be placed into that collection. So that might seem confusing, but once I give you a little more context after I add the rest of my products, it's going to make more sense. But I just wanted you guys to know that once I get into it so that you're not confused as to what I'm talking about. Okay, so now let's go down to collections right here. And you might have an item here. The home page might still be listed as one of your collections. If it's still there, then go to the top right and add a collection that way. But in this case, if you don't, click on create collection. So first things first, we have our title once more. As for the description for your collection, it's not really necessary. And for the image, this is simply the thumbnail for this collection. Now, here we go. This is the brunt of what we're going to talk about. So we have the manual and smart. So smart is, like I mentioned, we have a tag, a variable, so you can choose any of these, and then this variable is equal to whatever. So we have tag equal to tent, and then, you know, when you're on that product page, you can just assign it to the tent collection. However, in this case, what you can do instead is manually add it. All right. So if you don't have a lot of items, you can come to your collection, manually add it. And for each subsequent item, you go to your product page and then you assign it to a collection. Easy as that, right? But how the manual assigning goes is you go to browse and then you look for whatever you need. So now I need my tents and a couple of these items. So tent, sleeping bag. I need a waterproof backpack, rain cover, and what was the other one that I had? Ah, yes, and then the travel blanket. So once you're done with that, click on done. It should be 5. There we go. And that's all there really is to it. Now, the reason I made these collections is beyond just organizing them. Rather, it allows us to place them on our menus. So to find our menus, we can go down here to content, and then you'll see the menus tab. So we have two menus. We have the main and the footer menu, which I'll talk about in a moment. The main menu is the menu you see at the top, and then the footer menu is at the bottom of the page where you see things that companies didn't really want to add or didn't see as important enough to place in the header menu. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't need to add anything there, because in the footer menu, you'll often find policies. So that's all I'm going to add for this one, because it's important for you guys to establish your policies. But first, let's talk about the main menu. So for the main menu, to add anything, go to add menu item, then go to search or paste the link, and we go to our collections and simply click which one we want, and just repeat that process until you've added everything. Now you can also organize this and move items around. So is that all three? Camp, gear. Okay. Now, so we can also organize these by moving them around. Click on the 6 dots right here and just rearrange them like this. So what do I want first? Camp, kitchen. No. So I want outdoor. Let's go gear and shelter, and camp, kitchen, outdoor, and comfort tools. Let's have this second. And so yeah, that's basically how you add items and how you reorganize your menus. As for the footer menu, we need to take a little detour by going to the bottom left and clicking on settings and making our way down to where the policies are. So with Shopify, it's really great because they provide you with certain templates that you could use. So if you click on any of these policies, well, not any of them, I'll explain that in a moment. You'll see in the top right that you can insert a template. Now, for these templates, you still have to input your own information. This just gives you a rubric, a layout, a blueprint of what is important to add in here. So just come into these templates and, you know, input your own information to make sure that it's up to date. And yeah, but for the ones that don't actually have templates, that is shipping and legal notices, you still have to input your own information. So either way, you can't rest on the fact that you have a template. So basically make sure that you find some templates for your shipping policy and legal notices so that you have those updated as well. And once you're done with that, head back to the menus tab. And then all you do is go down to add menu item, search or paste link, find your policies, and then you add them the way I did right here. All right, so now I want you guys to go down to the online store tab. Now, what we're gonna find here is access to our editor. So this is where things get serious. Now, the theme that we're gonna use is the default Horizon theme, simply because I wanna start on the same level as you guys. I don't wanna pick a random theme and then, have different settings that you won't have. So we're gonna start on the same plane. However, if you want to add a different theme, then just go down to the bottom of the page where it says visit theme store. And from here, you can filter through the price, the industry, catalog size, features, all these different criteria that can help you find exactly what you need. Now, in this case, let's try out the free filter. And let's say we want to use the Dawn theme. All right. And you want to see what this site looks like in a practical sense. So for that, you go to view demo store. You can see how the buttons work, how the layout is, the template in general, and say, you click on a product, and this is what it looks like when you go to the product page, the description, how the pictures show up, and, generally what you can expect from this template. Now, if you want to try this theme, go to the top right, click on try theme, at which point it's going to download to your dashboard. Now, it's going to show up under your theme libraries. So right here, we can go and right click on customize, at which point we can add different sections, change some of the content or all the content, but we've already added our products, which is something that you can't do from the editor. And so you'll see that all of our products have been added here, as well as our menu items have been updated in both the footer and the header. And this is also going to apply to our Horizon theme, so just know that it has worked. Now, if you do want to go with this theme, go to the top right and publish it. If you don't like the theme that you chose, go back to the previous tab, click on these three dots, remove it, and then it has been vanquished. But let's actually get to work on our own store. So for that, let's right click and open this link in a new tab, simply because I want to have easier access to my dashboard. But now let's go to our editor. All right, so this is our store. So on the left-hand side, you'll see a brief overview of our layout. So we have the header, which includes the main menu, and then at the bottom is our footer, and everything else in between is listed under template. We're going to spend most of our time there. Now, you can also see what this site looks like on different devices. So right now we're in desktop, over here is mobile. Now we're not going to be editing the store in the mobile view, because whatever changes we make to the desktop version of our store is going to be adapted for the mobile. So just keep that in mind. And lastly, we have the full screen. So this is the second best way of seeing what our store would look like on a full screen. But if you want to see what this would look like from the customer's perspective, we go to the top left where these three dots are and click on view. And so, yeah, this is what the customer is basically going to see when they hop onto your store. So with that taken care of, let's actually get into customizing this thing. So the first thing that I want to change is our menu and our logo in particular. So to do so, we go to theme settings. We open up the logo and favicon, and we click on the default logo. So select this one, and you transfer over all of your photos into the Shopify library. And once you've made your selection, click on the photo and go to done. So right here, we don't have any customization options. So to make the logo larger, we have to click on the logo itself and then go over here and change the desktop height. And to reposition the entire menu, you click on the header, and then we have our logo position settings. So I'll place this in the center, and I'll place this right underneath the logo in the middle. So we go to center, and then we change the row to bottom, and there you go. Now there's two more things I want to talk about when it comes to the theme settings. So that's colors and typography. The only thing that you need to go to the colors tab here for is if you want to add another scheme. And the reason why I mention this is because if we click on a section like this and go down to the color scheme settings, you'll see that we can select any of the schemes that we want. And if we go to edit, we can change the colors from within by clicking on a tag and then choosing whichever color we want and playing around with the settings there. So basically, if you want to just add another color scheme, if the 7 that you have or however many you have by default aren't enough, you can always add another and change the color scheme as well. And as for the typography here, this is just another word for font. The only two pieces of font that we're going to need to address are the body and the heading. The other two, we're not going to get into it because it just gets a little too complicated at that point. So if you want to change your font, all you do is click on it and you go down to any of these options. For example, let's go Archivo Narrow. So we have the header and then the body font, which is the most important in this case. Now you'll notice how this header font changed, but this one didn't. The only reason for this is I've noticed is because it comes default with the image banner. It's kind of strange, but to show you what I mean basically is if we remove this and we add our own header text, so basically we can add a section by clicking on this plus button. And if we added like a header right here and we went back to the theme settings and changed this heading once more, you'll find that it will change actually. So just to show you that I'm not a hack. So right there it's changed, and then you'll notice it's changed there as well. Now, if you want to keep any of your changes, you make sure that you go down to select, otherwise it's not going to remain. It's not going to apply it. And you do the same thing for the body text. You choose your fonts and then, you get that. Now, what we have to change is the banner image. So right here, we do the same thing we did with the logo. We click on it and then we go to our library. All right. And so for this one, I'm just going to find which photo I need. So I guess, there we go. That's the one that I need. And then you click done once more, and then it's going to be applied just like that. As for the settings here, all we really need to go to is layout. So our text right now is vertical. If you prefer, you can place it horizontal. Now I like it to be vertical, just personal preference. Now I'm going to place this in the center, and the position is going to be in the center as well. We just need to place this text above the button by going to the left-hand side and by doing the same thing we did with our menus. Now the height of the image is fine. However, if you guys want to change it, you can just change it to any of these options right here. Now let's change our text by clicking on the box, and I'm going to paste the text I have from my clipboard. To change this typography, go to typography and we have our presets. So basically whatever font you choose for your heading is going to be applied here. So let's go with heading 3, or is that too small? Let's go to heading 2 actually. There we go. Perfect. Now I find that it's a little hard to read, not entirely, but I would like it to be slightly easier to read. And the way we can adapt this is by going down to, where is it? We have to click on the thing here. And then going down to appearance and toggling this on, and you'll see how the background changes a little bit. It gets darker. Now this is fine. I just want to go to a different color. So let's go down to bluish and then change the background to something like that. And going back to full screen. And it might not seem like I made much of a difference, but you'll see a slight blue hue in the background, which shows that it's been applied. Now I do want to just round this out a little bit, so the corner radius is going to be a bit smaller. So there we go. So there we go. That works. So you see how the corners have changed a little bit. They're a bit more smooth. So that's just a personal preference, but I just wanted to show you guys how that works. So in terms of our banner image, that's all I wanted to talk about. We addressed our header. Now let's make sure we save our progress. Now in our product list, we have a few things that we need to change. So first off, if you'd like to change the collection that is being displayed, you can go to the top right under collection, products, and replace it with any of the other collections you have. In this case, I'll leave it as is. Now, I don't really like grids, especially because I like to add more items on my homepage so people can look through them. And without having to make it look like a lot of clutter, you can go to type and change it from a grid into a carousel. And so here we have 13 items that customers can look through, and it won't take up like half the page. Now, we'll also have a problem here because if we scroll all the way back, and go to full screen, that there's some white space that's being taken up here. So we need to remove that, and we can do that by going down to, where is it? Right here, width, full. And if we go back to full screen, you'll see how that's been covered up. And one more thing, you'll see how I was scrolling through these items. Now the arrows are not very easy to see. So if we go to circle, it'll give them a little background so that they're more noticeable. As for the images right here, the icons, well, we have to click on the image itself and we can change the aspect ratio from any of these options. Now, there's a little problem here because Shopify doesn't really crop the images in the best way. That is all down to you. Now, I'm not going to crop it just so you guys can see every single item, but I just wanted to let you guys know that you're going to have to keep that in mind as you're adding your product photos. Shopify is not going to crop it for you, so just make sure you adapt it. Now, this is like the best plan B option that you have to change the aspect ratio so that it looks a little cleaner. But yeah, that is just something I wanted you guys to keep in mind because it's a problem that you're going to encounter from time to time. So just know that you can't rely on Shopify to crop it for you. Now, what we're going to add is a collection list. So we can either add a section by hovering like this and adding a section to template, or by going to add section over here. And now our collection, we need bento. So on the left, you know what? No, I'm going to show you a different way. So first, what we're going to do is we're actually going to add a grid. And so we can add our collections by going to the top right and selecting the ones that we want, and make sure you click on select down here. Now, if you wanted to add more, you have a maximum of 8 in any collection. Then what you would do is you would increase the amount of columns, and then you would just choose up to 8 of these collections, and then they would just fill out the rest of the space here. But we're just going to revert back to what we had. Now, see how this hasn't been cropped very well? We're going to adapt. So the way we can do this is by going back to bento. And the reason why I showed you this extra step is because the previous style is a little confusing, and this is easier for beginners. I found it easier when I was just starting out to use this method and then expand on it later on. Now, on the left side, right side, we have images. And since this picture wasn't cropped very well in the beginning, this makes up for that little problem that we had. Now, afterwards, we're going to place this above here. So we're going to take the collection list and place it above the product list because it looks a lot better and more organized. So underneath the collection list here, what we're going to do is we're going to add 2 different sections. Well, 4 entirely, but 2 of the same sections really. So underneath here, I'm going to add an image with text. So here we go, image with text. And I'm going to also add a banner image. So basically the idea is to have a banner image pointing out a specific collection, and then underneath that we're going to highlight a particular product from that, because all we have right now are items. We just plastered them across our website and told people, hey, look at what we've got. Now we're just going to give a little more context to some of the products that we have. So we're going to place it right here in between the collection list and the product list. So do it as such. Now in this case, the banner image is actually called Hero. And first things first, let's change the background photo. So we'll go down here, we'll take this one. And if it's too large, yeah, we're going to have to change the size to medium down here. And for the text, let's get rid of this subtext and add the text that I have on my clipboard. Now that's too large, so if we try heading 2, it might look better. Yeah. And then we have all this blank space that we have to get rid of, so we'll do that as well. Now, as for the button, let's take the button and assign it to the particular item that I want. So go to products, and then here we go. And then we'll change the label as well. Go to check it out. Check it out. And we'll save that. Then underneath this, we're going to place the image with text section. So once this refreshes, we can do that. All right. So hover in between, go down to image with text. All right. So first off, let's change the text, or the image, and then the text. So where's the one that I need? Here we go. Now this is likely going to be way too large. So in this case, we can crop it properly. So I don't know what's with Shopify's cropping system, but it can be better. They just don't apply to everything. So if we go to portrait, that's too large. If we go to landscape, that's much better. So we'll keep it at landscape. Now for the description, I have something set up. There we go. Now it's called the outbound 3. So let's go down here, actually, just all this space that we got to clear up. And we'll go the outbound 3, take that and paste it as our title.
go. And then fill it so it's in the center. And then we'll also align this to be in the center as well. And we'll see if we can fill this. Okay, that's too much. So fits, fill. No, so we'll just go custom and we'll keep it as is because it just looks more proper. And we'll get rid of this button because we already have this button up here. So we'll click on it and we'll remove it. And there you go. That's all I wanted to do. So we added those two sections. It's not very hard. It just requires a little brain power and then it kind of works out in the end. Now, what I'm going to do for the other section is I'm going to basically do the same thing, except that I'm going to place this image on the right side. So I'll show you how to do that really quickly. You just take it from the left side and then you place it on the right like this. All right, it's pretty simple. So I'm going to do that without having to show you all over again, and then we'll move on. And this is what the section looks like once we're done. So banner image, you guys saw this already. And then we have the second banner image as well as the image with text. Now what we need to do is add some color. So let's start from the top. Now right here, you're going to see two options. So we have the default color and then the bottom row. So the default is basically the header up here, including the logo, and down below is our menu. So for our menu, I'll just choose gray because it blends really nice with the green here. As for the shop by collection, we'll turn that gray. So we have one option in this case. So we'll go with gray. And then down below here, we'll choose green. So where is it? There we go. We'll go with green, green. And now for this one, we'll go gray. And lastly, we'll have some green at the end here. So it kind of wraps it up. So what do we got here? So we have a nice little color scheme here. So green, gray, gray, some color, gray, gray, green. And then, yes, so everything looks much better now. A little more interesting than looking at just plain white. So with that taken care of, how about we get into the last stretch of this video, and that is to talk about our settings. So I'm just going to save this so we don't have to redo that all over again. But now let's go back to this tab and head down to settings. Once you guys are in your settings, make sure you head down to payments. So once you buy a Shopify plan, right here, you're going to be able to sign up to Shopify payments. So all this is you fill in some information, you fill in fields about your bank information, your company, so on and so forth, your social insurance number, and then you send all of that to Shopify. And what they do basically is validate it, make sure that everything is okay, and then they get back to you, at which point you will be able to start receiving orders and get paid for your services and or items. Now, I can't show you this myself because I already have my account set up with Shopify on another profile. However, rest assured that it's not hard. You fill in the fields and you just follow the steps, and afterwards you just submit it to Shopify and they'll get back to you as soon as possible. If everything's okay, you're good to go. If not, you'll just need to send them a little more information. Next, I want you guys to go down to shipping and delivery and click on the first option. So let me explain this to you as simply as I can because there's a few steps that we have to take here, so just pay attention. So right here we have our domestic shipping zone and our international. So if you're planning on selling to one or more of these countries but not all 28, then you're going to have to remove this shipping zone because it's not going to allow you to have two of the same countries in individual shipping zones. I know doesn't really make much sense, but it's the way that it functions. So what we have to do is remove this. Now, if you're planning on selling to a country that isn't in this list of 25 countries, then that's fine. You can still follow this process. You're just not going to have to remove this zone. So let's remove it by clicking on those three dots, clicking on delete and saving. Afterwards, let's go down to markets, and in the top right, create a market, and let's just name it. So we're going to go NA test, and down here, add condition and search up United States. All right, there we go. And click on done. After you save it, it's going to ask you to go back to markets to set up your shipping rates, which we'll do. So we click on the first option once more, and then we go to add shipping zone and click on United States. Now we open this up. And the great thing about Shopify is that we can ship to particular states if we like. So we can uncheck this and then select, let's say, Arizona, Arkansas, California. All right, click on done. Well, first we have to name it. And we go NA test 2. There we go. And click on done. At which point you go down to add rate and you go down to price and you put in the price of your shipping rate. So basically $2 is the rate for those 3 states that we selected. And just make sure that you name it so that you don't confuse your rates. So let's say test. Oh, I'm just testing a lot. Test rate. All right. Test rate. All right. And after that, you just click on done. And there you go. You set up your shipping zone and the rates for those zones you're shipping to. And lastly, you guys should go down to domains, because a proper domain makes you look professional and credible. If someone comes to a site that has a domain like this, which is currently our domain name, then they're going to be a little confused, thinking it's a bit sketchy. So what you do is you click on buy new domain, okay? And whatever your site's name is, let's say my random site is the name, you hit enter, and then it's going to look for top level domains. So this right here is my domain name, and .com, .net, .org, whatever is your top level domain. And you can see here that you can buy any of them. So I highly recommend doing that before you publish your store, just so that you have credibility. However, there is one last step that you need to know, and that is you have to buy a Shopify plan before you can actually publish your store. So right now it says that your online store is password protected. Well, once you do buy a plan, you come here, it's going to say remove password, at which point your store will be public and you can start selling. And that just about wraps up today's video, ladies and gentlemen. If you have any further questions for me, do not hesitate to leave them down below in the comments. And if you enjoyed today's video, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. And do not forget about that Shopify deal in the description below, 3-day free trial and $1 per month for the next 6 months. At any rate, that is all from me. Thank you guys for watching as always, and until next time, make sure to take care.